Captain Tommy Scoble. People, sorry, I was running a little bit late. It was one of those days that ran a little bit late at work. So I got home late this evening, and yeah, just one of those days. I am also scheduled to work tomorrow for another 12-hour shift. So probably going to be a little thin on some stuff this weekend. But as soon as this weekend is over, we're going to be implementing a lot of the stuff that I talked about on this morning's video, some of the new technology that we have. Mark Wages has been diligently working behind the scenes to put all of this together. Let me make sure I've got the live chat up here, people. Live chat, there we go. And then, let me see if I can get it over here on my other device so that I can see who is coming in. I apologize, people, for the thumbnail. I didn't realize that as I was putting the camera in place that it was taking a a thumbnail, so that was not by design. I just photographed my chest by accident, and I apologize for that. Mark, good to see you. Grizz Cub is here. Fantastic. Good to see you. Mitchell, great to see you, my friend. Glad that you're here. People, tonight is going to be a little bit different. The subject matter tonight is really far off what I normally do, but it's something that I really think it's worth mentioning. It's something that probably needs to be brought up, because there is, conspiracy theories that continually get perpetuated, very often are rooted in fact. People love to use the term conspiracy theory because as soon as you do, people have visions of tinfoil hats. Oh, you know what, people? Let me see if I can. I just realized that my microphone was not plugged in. Hopefully. Are we still good? Can I get a 5x5? How's that? Sound better? Hopefully the sound is better. I've had a few people say that the sound quality has been tough, so we're going with the old microphone. Hopefully this works out a little better. But as I was just saying, 5x5, excellent. The seventh son, thank you, my friend. No, the sound is worse. The sound was better a moment ago. Is that what I'm to understand? The sound isn't as good. All right, we're going to go without. Let's see. I'll just have to speak up a little bit then. That be. People, as I was saying, they love to throw out the term, Deja, good to see you. They love to throw out the term conspiracy theory because it instantly makes people assume that there's no basis in fact to whatever is being said. However, very oftentimes, the mic is making me sound like I'm in a tunnel. Okay, well, hopefully now that is off, we're doing better. So we're okay now, everybody? Can I get a thumbs up? Now that we are not in the tunnel, I'm hoping this sounds better. But yeah, 5x5. There we go. So this is what I'm discussing tonight, people. There are a great many people who are going to call this a conspiracy theory. However, there is too much meat on the bone for this to simply be dismissed out of hand as something that there's no basis in fact to. In fact, the overwhelming facts point to the fact that the largest drug dealer on the planet, especially when it comes to these United States of America, is probably not a cartel, but more than likely employs cartels. But the people who can be blamed for an awful lot of the drugs that have come into the United States of America is the Central Intelligence Agency. Now, I know that there are going to be people who freak out about this, but you need to hear this out. People, if in the 1970s, right, the Vietnam War was coming to an end, and America went into one of the first really horrendous drug epidemics that we ever had, and it was an influx of readily available, particularly strong heroin in most of the large cities in America. And you had needle users dying in the street with needles in their arms, with syringes in their arms. And it was really an epidemic. And if you take a look at throughout history, going back to the huge drug crises, the drug epidemics that happened in the United States of America, going back to the Vietnam War, and then coming all the way up to today, there are some things that you have to look at that are really kind of phenomenal. So when you talk about the United States government, when you talk about them sending the Central Intelligence Agency into different parts of the world and doing so on a black op kind of basis, they have to go in front of Congress and say, we want X amount of dollars for this. Once you get past a certain threshold in the $1 million marks, right, you get up past a certain amount, you then have to go and ask Congress for that money. And you don't just say, hey, I could use some money, there's some quiet stuff that we want to do. You have to go in there and tell them what that money is designed for. As a clandestine agency, the Central Intelligence Agency would like to be able to spend money that they don't have to tell Congress about. And what seems to happen, what seems to happen routinely is that where we're at in the world seems to have drugs that then flood the U.S. market. So we were in Indochina, we were over in Vietnam, and you had that entire region of Cambodia, Vietnam, where there was a large production of heroin. And all of a sudden, the streets of the US were flooded with very, very inexpensive heroin. And many, many stories got written about Air America and some of the other operations that were being run through the alphabet agencies of the US, the ones that I just mentioned. Fast forward, right? The heroin sort of goes away, and we get into a time in the US where there really was nothing on the horizon in terms of really epic proportions when it comes to drugs. The next time we saw a really big epidemic in the US was right around the time of the 80s. And what came in next was crack and started in California and made its way across the country. And the next thing you know, we had the crack wars, and you had gangs gunning each other down in the streets. There was a very, very famous press conference, not press conference, but the president of the United States of America at the time, George H.W. Bush, did a live broadcast from the Oval Office where he picked up a brick this big of crack cocaine suck sealed and said this was purchased not 2 miles from the White House. And he went on to talk about the problems that we were having with crack cocaine. I'm sure many of you have seen the movie where Tom Cruise played Mr. Barry Seals. There are numerous books that were written about Barry Seals and his relationship with the United States of America. He was an airline pilot that wound up flying for, again, alphabet agencies in the United States, clandestine alphabet agencies in the United States. And now the new frontier was Nicaragua. And unlike Vietnam and that region of the world, Southeast Asia, where you had nothing but heroin, now we were in South America. And the cash crop in South America, especially at the time, they've tried to get it under control since, but this was the wild, wild west back then. And the cash crop was cocaine. And the next thing you know, we were bringing, and this is not debatable, folks, this part is a fact, because it all came out. There was the entire, Iran-Contra affair that went on, and what was found out was that we were actually flying the cocaine from South America into the United States, and then using the money that product, once it was sold, we were buying guns and bringing them back to Nicaragua so that they could be used in the war between the Sandinista and the Contra rebels. All of this is not debatable. Now, the part that is a gentleman that by the name Freeway Ricky Ross. This is not the rapper Ricky Ross. That man took the name Ricky Ross for a reason. That's why he had to go to court. was sued and changed it to Rick Ross. Okay, well, Freeway Ricky Ross was basically a young entrepreneur, and according to his story, the Alphabet agency sought him out and said, "Here's what's going to happen," and they actually showed him the process of how to take cocaine and cook it and turn it into crack. This was a government agency working with someone who had already been a convicted criminal and starting what was to become the crack epidemic and the crack wars in the United States. What they thought was that they would be able to control this and do it just in the California, LA area. What they didn't realize was that, anytime you bring large amounts of drugs into any place, they're not going to stay there. People are going to look at this as an opportunity and go, boy, I got some friends in New York that are going to go nuts for this, or I got some friends in Chicago that are going to go nuts for this. And the next thing you know, the entire country was just awash in crack. There were alleys in New York City. And when crack first hit the streets, it was sold in little plastic tubes with a little cap on both sides, right? It was just, they would buy these cheap little plastic containers. And there were alleys in New York City where those were 4 or 5 inches deep on the ground. The crack epidemic was unbelievable. There was so much crack cocaine being smoked in the United States. And again, seems very coincidental that wherever we happen to be, with all of the troops and with all of the clandestine stuff going on with Alphabets, the next thing you know, that product is awash all over the streets of the US. Fast forward, right? And what we find is that now we are in a different part of the world, right? We had the Twin Towers come down, and the United States declared a war on, the terrorism that was going on. It was a different form of war, but we ended up in Afghanistan, and in doing so, the product over there was poppies, right? More poppies are grown in Afghanistan than basically any other place on the planet. And then something happened in the US that we honestly believed would never ever happen again. We went into the second heroin epidemic in the US. All of a sudden, heroin was back, and it was cheap, and it was popular, and it was gaining popularity faster than any drug in the world. Again, Southeast Asia, their product, heroin. The streets in the US get flooded. Nicaragua, South America, the product was cocaine. The US gets flooded. Now Afghanistan, right? The product, cheap heroin. The streets of America get flooded. People, it seems awfully coincidental, and there is a ton of material out there that basically documents this as a theory. There is a great documentary, if you ever get a chance to see it, called the Last Great White Hope. And it documents the rise and fall of Freeway Ricky Ross. And there are people in that documentary who worked for the Alphabets and were quoted as saying, "You bet we did. You bet we picked him." Now, these people obviously, they're in hiding because, they don't want to wind up like Barry Seals did. If you've seen that movie, he was famously carrying around a tremendous amount of videotape and basically evidence that he was trying to keep to protect himself from anything bad happening to him. It didn't work very well, and he was executed. That's what happened. He was made to go away, but it's something that definitely is worth researching because of how algorithms work, and because of the fact that you really have to walk a tightrope with things that you say in a live feed like this. If you don't, we're just going to become buried, and that's the last thing that we want, because we do have a mission, and the mission is not to talk about conspiracies or possible conspiracies. The mission is obviously to make it so that people understand that addicts are people too, and that while we do shoulder a great deal of blame because it is a disease of choice, we are not bad people. And if what I'm talking about right now is true, we have one part of the country working as hard as possible to put all of the things that we're not supposed to do in front of us. And I would recommend to anybody who is interested in this at all that you do a little research, because the amount of information out there that discusses the possibility of what I'm talking about ad nauseum, there is so much out there that is fantastic to read. Really, really incredible stuff. And I think it's eye-opening, people. I think that if you start looking at this as a bigger mission, if you start looking at this as something that, we're out to change the world, we really are, and we're out to change the world one addict at a time. But when you start to realize that um, there really is um, that we're really sort of fighting an uphill battle. We want to win the war on drugs, but you start asking yourself, do they really want us to win the war on drugs? There is a great statement in the documentary I was talking about where they talk about the war on drugs, and a lifelong bureaucrat with the U.S. who worked with the lettered agencies said that, and I've quoted this before. He said the war on drugs is not winnable, but it's fundable. It is the second largest budget in the United States behind the military. So it really becomes a situation where we create a problem and then we fund the ever loving heck out of it to try to beat the problem. I know that sounds ridiculous, but the more you start digging in and researching, there's a lot of really ridiculous things that go on in the United States on a pretty daily basis. Um, I spent a decent amount of time selling things, and there were times where I sold stock, and there was some, I worked in boiler rooms, and that aspect of my life is something that I sort of took with me when I got out of that line of work. Saigon Cinnamon, good to see you, my brother. Uh, but currently, right now in the United States, we are in what's called QE3. I'm not going to get too into this because I don't want to bore you with the minutia. But what QE3 means is quantitative easement, right? What this is, people, is the United States of America buying bonds from itself, right? We're printing money to buy bonds from ourselves as opposed to selling it to other countries. The trouble with that is we're propping up our own economy. I'm not making this stuff up. The number of things that are going on in the country that the average American doesn't know anything about or have any care to know anything about is staggering. There is a mountain of information concerning what the involvement in this country is with our government and recreational substances being flooded on our streets, and then they turn around and incarcerate at the fastest rate of anybody on the planet. Nobody incarcerates more people than the U.S. And what do they incarcerate them for? They incarcerate them for drugs. When I was in the federal system, I worked in Unicor. I was a quality control guy in Unicor. If you're wearing a uniform anywhere in the military today, it was made by a convict. And it was made by a convict who got paid 15 to 40 cents an hour. The prison industrial complex in the US is staggeringly large. And you tend to think about it in terms of, okay, well, there's, in the federal system, there's somewhere between 150 and 220,000 people incarcerated at any given time. All of them are working. The prison system stays solvent because it is staffed by inmates. There are plenty of guards to look over the inmates, but the kitchen is run by, all of the cooks, all of the people cleaning, all of the people doing everything are inmates. The laundry, every single aspect of it is run by these people who, for all intents and purposes, got locked up because of drugs that are on the street. You really kind of got to ask yourself where they came from. Now, I'm not trying to drive us down a rabbit hole. I really am not. But I've had people who emailed me and said, do you think that the U.S. has any involvement? And very oftentimes, people, I come on and I talk about things and I say, what I want you to do is think. It's not my job to come and give you an opinion. My job is, unless, on certain things I have to, but on a lot of things, what I just want to do is put this out and give you the opportunity to, like the best feed that we ever did, unfortunately, we took down. But the best live feed we ever did was about the potential for the legalization of drugs, because it is something that is being discussed in the top echelon of our government daily. It is something that is very seriously being considered. And I didn't take a stance on that. What I did was explain the two sides of this and tell you that in the near future, when this starts to rear its head, you're going to want to take a stance, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to say, I can't believe they did this, one way or the other. As humans and as people, especially all in the same boat, I think that there needs to be more involvement. We find ourselves just like parents when I said, do you talk to your kids about drugs? Well, they do that down at the school. Well, when we talk about legalization of drugs, well, the government's handling that. These things affect our lives in a way that nothing else does, right? My favorite Chinese restaurant is a dispensary. When I got home from prison, there is a dispensary, on every third street corner selling drugs. Now, before everybody goes nuts, I'm not sitting here and bad mouthing cannabis, right? I'm not. I badmouth addiction, but I don't have an axe to grind against cannabis. I don't care. I think that there are plenty of medicinal uses for cannabis, and I also think that there are tens of millions of people who are unable to control the use of cannabis in their lives. But there are tens of millions of people who can't control whatever their particular substance is. People, just statistically speaking, if you take any group of people and you introduce a drug, 3% will crash and burn as bad as humanly possible. And then you're going to have a larger percentage that walk on the edge. They may not be hopelessly addicted, or they may not be to the point where they can't cope or live without it, but it's an issue in their lives. They spend too much money, they concentrate too much, whatever the case may be. But that 3% number it's not unique to the United States of America. It's unique to substances. About 3% of anybody who is introduced to any substance is going to crash and burn. And by that I mean like me on heroin, right? Or me on opiates of any kind. I am that 3%. I am so hopelessly addicted to it that it's beyond my capability to control without making an awful lot of safeguards. Having a system like this, having people who I can come and talk to, building a support family. Without them, I would be lost. Without all of you, I would be lost. That really is the nature of my particular ailment. But I was bringing up, the start of that rant was that I really try not to take a stance and say, well, this is my opinion on this. I don't think it benefits you often. But I'm going to say this. I am whole cloth convinced that the left hand and the right hand in this country are doing the exact opposite thing at all times. I think that they create problems for the purpose to fight, and I think that it benefits them greatly to have large numbers of people incarcerated for drugs. I think that the prison industrial complex is something that is very, very beneficial to our country, and it's something that they take unbelievable advantage of. In the federal system now, you've got solar panels being built by inmates. It's the only way you're going to compete with the cheap labor that comes out of other countries is having a labor force that you can pay less than 50 cents an hour. Well, where do you find that, right? Within our borders, how is that possible? Well, you take incarcerated people and you teach them this skill, and you can pay them next to nothing. And now all of a sudden, we really do have the capacity to start manufacturing things at a price that can compete with countries that intentionally devalue their currency so that they can build stuff, normally that we can't compete with. It really is something that, as this grows and as we become a force, people, if this goes well, if this goes the way it should, and I trust and believe it's going to, I think that the bumps in the road that are part of every kind of growth for any kind of channel or any kind of anything, these things level out in time. And I believe that this is going to grow far beyond what we can imagine. And when that happens, this will be a force to be reckoned with. But if that is the case, then we need a group of people that take the time to do a little deep diving outside of just coming to the channel and listening to me. There are so many places that you can go to learn different things. And there are going to be a lot of times where I say, please do a little research on this, because I'm not going to spend 2 hours in here discussing something that quite possibly will get the algorithm to go, put these guys in a closet, right? I don't want to create a storm of privately run prisons exist, as well as the corporations that profit supplying prisons. You know what's really crazy about that? Because private prisons in the U.S. are a unbelievable cash cow. The U.S. decided to get rid of them altogether, right? At least in the federal system, there were not to be any more private prisons in the federal system, and that law passed. But when I was doing I was in Mark's home state. I was doing time in Indiana in the federal system. And as I got closer to the time that they release you, they want you within 500 miles of your home state. So I was moved from there to Oregon. I stopped working at Unicor. I got put on Con Air and I got flown out to Oregon. And uh, on the way there, I stopped in a town in Nevada called Pahrump. And I was in a private prison 2 years after the law had been passed that there are no more private prisons, right? They will tell the people, no, they're done. There are no more federal private prisons. I was in it. It was called CCA, right? Corrections Corp of America, right? Correction Corp of America. And I'm sitting in there looking at the sign on the wall, and I said, "Is so? This is a privately run prison?" And the guy said, "Yeah, no, we're not owned by the federal government. They pay us to run this facility." And I said, "My understanding was that they're not doing this anymore. That they're now illegal." He goes, "Oh yeah, they are." Right? But again, people, so much of what happens in this country, we walk through like this, right? Who cares? I mean, who cares if inmates are being treated one way or another, right? What's the philosophy? What have we been saying forever? Lock them up and throw away the key, right? Nobody cares. Plain and simple, they don't. So don't believe the things that they don't believe the things that they tell you. Take a little time. The internet is a unbelievable repository of information. The beautiful thing about the net, if it's used the way that it had been designed to be used, it is a fantastic tool. It can take somebody in the farthest regions of the world, in the most depressed economies anywhere, and give them an opportunity to have all of the knowledge that somebody in Harvard would have in their library, right? All they need is internet access. Unfortunately, what do we watch? We watch kitten videos, right? We watch cat videos and girls in bikinis jumping up and down. But if it's used the way that that it had been designed, I mean, there really is some power in this. But you're seeing it right now, right? The boat is a great example of what can happen on the net. Um, setting up a place where addicts can come and discuss issues that really are germane to us, and do it without judgment, at least in theory, without judgment and without people that look down on us. There's always going to be trolls, people. That's just the nature of the beast. But we are setting up something that is unique, and I think that's the reason that the excitement level here is the way it is, and it's the reason that you all have taken the boat and basically without a mutiny taken this thing over. I think that that's going to get even more dramatic when we start doing the interviews, because now people, when you have a channel on YouTube, there needs to be a product. Most of us have gone over and subscribed to Wages World. If you haven't, why not? But for those of us who have gone over there, Mark has a product, right? We know exactly what we're going to see when we go over there. We are going to find out what's going on in space and how that will affect planet Earth, weather, all kinds of things that are directly affected by that. So anytime something happens, if there's a solar flare, if there's anything that takes place in space, man, we're going to get a live feed, and Mark is going to explain to us in a way that a Scoville can understand exactly what's going on. Every channel has a product. Do you understand what I'm saying? So in the beginning, because of how this was, how this channel came to be, the product was me spending an awful lot of time talking about addiction. That will morph, people. That was not a sustainable model from the word go. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I could do this for the rest of my life, but it's not really what this is supposed to be. And I even said it in the early videos. The purpose of this channel is to celebrate, right? Everybody fighting the good fight. Give them the tools and then celebrate the victories. Being able to do these interviews is going to be, it's really going to be an opportunity for us to highlight those victories. The fact that we've been doing this many live feeds, right? There's a reason for this. And the reason is not just because it chalks up a lot of hours, people. If that were the case, then in the next couple of days, we would stop doing this. And that's never going to be the case. I would like, in fact, let me rephrase that. what is going to happen, especially once we're rolling, is this is going to be the same kind of format that we're doing right now, except we're going to do it like a call-in, where people have the opportunity to, as opposed to stuff scrolling up the screen as fast as possible, we're going to have a call screener. And Mark and I will be working hand in hand. People are going to call in and they're going to ask questions, and it's going to bring all of this. The family aspect of this is really the most important part of this channel. I don't think anybody would argue with me on that. If we all care for one another at the level that we do, then help becomes something that you want to give. Help becomes something that you feel the need to give. If I'm just here talking to you and you're just listening on filmed videos, there's none of that connection, right? That doesn't happen the way that it really should. This format where, as I'm here, you guys are interacting with each other, you're interacting with me, that format takes a group of people and brings them together in a cohesive kind of a family. Can we agree on that? Everybody nodding? Okay. When we take that to the next level and it becomes literally like a call-in show, you're going to have an opportunity to come here and ask questions, and you're going to have an ability to build your recovery. Your game plan will be something that you can tailor make so that it fits you. I promise you're not going to hear that other places. That is not something you hear in rehabilitation, because they want to stick you into a one-size-fits-all model. And the reason they do that is they want the highest percentage of success in terms of, of their numbers. And how do you do that? Well, you make sure there's no guilt. And you make sure there's no guilt by blaming mom and dad. And if mom and dad can't be blamed, then we go down a list, right? But we want to make sure that there's a scapegoat for everything that you've done. I mean, they'll tell you it's a disease, but then they are going to do everything within their power to make sure that you can blame your addiction on somebody other than yourself. If they can eliminate guilt, then what you're left with in terms of really the triggers that everybody in psychology and psychiatry believe are the number one things that are going to drive you back to use is if the acronym HALT: hungry, angry, lonely, tired, right? So those things can be dealt with from a toolbox. The one that can't is guilt, right? If you're hungry, you eat, right? You can train yourself to do certain things. If you're angry, we work on, getting breathing under control, working on different ways so that you can work through your anger as opposed to running back to your drug, right? If you're lonely, they set up group therapy. You go to 12-step programs to make sure you're not lonely. You start feeling that feeling, you get in your car, you drive to a meeting. They have structured this in such a way. But the one that you can't get over is guilt, right? That's one you really have to work through. And everybody says it. Everybody in this comment section has said that they struggle with the guilt from the things that they did when they were under the influence or when they were in the life. It's not unique. It would be wildly unique if you didn't feel guilt. So how do you eliminate that? Well, you say it's not your fault. It's mom and dad's fault. You have no reason to feel guilty. Your mom and dad screwed you up, and that's why you did drugs. Put it all on them. And that's the model that more often than not, I mean, and people, it's not a blanket statement. It's not 100 out of 100 facilities or 100 out of 100 doctors. There are some really good people in the whole rehabilitation game. There are some amazing people that are doing some amazing things. Alan Ballantyne, I love you, man. Alan says he struggles with guilt. Of course you do. Of course you do. There are benefits. I'm not pushing anything, people, but there are benefits for people who take the religious avenue. Because when people subscribe to a higher power, and that higher power, through the literature, regardless of what book you're choosing as your handbook for worship, almost all of them talk about the forgiveness from your higher power, and how that forgiveness is absolute. If you ask the Lord for forgiveness, you are forgiven, and that's something that helps addicts in a big way. That is really something that that works for a lot of people who are addicted. Doesn't mean that atheists can't do this. I'm just saying that it's a model, and it's again one of the reasons that very often in rehab they really do like pushing the 12 steps because of the God element in it, But regardless, as I was saying, there are some great people in in recovery. There really are. And I'm not being judgmental or crappy, people, but in my experience, the ones that are great, the ones that really sort of try to get down onto your level and work with you, are the ones that have been there and done that. If you go to work through some kind of a rehab program, and the people that are helping you learned everything that they learned about drugs, alcohol, and addiction out of a textbook, they can say all of the right things. What they can't say is, "I know how you feel." And there is so much power and so much strength to someone saying, "I've been there." It's one of the strongest things that you can possibly go through. Um, 11 years drunk after 13 years sober caused some guilt. 6 years sober now. We can't play with addictions. No, you cannot play with addictions. And all of us have tried, right? The nature of recovery, relapse is huge. And what happens is we talk ourselves into the fact that, well, this time I'm going to do it differently, right? This time I'm not going to drink before such and such a time. I'm not going to do drugs except on the weekends. I'm not going to do, and we lay out a whole series of things that we're going to do differently so that we can continue to enjoy the drug of choice without all of the problems that came up the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh time that we were addicted, right? It never works. It never works. And you've seen the commercials, and you've probably heard people on the radio and television where, "I used to be an addict, but I'm cured." Again, it might be semantics. If they're saying you're cured as long as you do this, 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 and this, well, then I'm cured, right? But cured to me means that you can now go back and actually, if you were an alcoholic, cured means that you can go have 3 beers, go home, and everything is going to be groovy. And that just isn't the case. There's been so much proof that it doesn't happen. It really does not happen. Um, Anger is a huge trigger for a lot of us. Absolutely. Anger is another one that is a huge, huge trigger. But most oftentimes, one of the things about anger is there's always something that causes it, right? Anger is not something that, you're sitting around the house and watching the television, and the next thing you know, you're angry. In my experience, anger is always something that it's lack of coping skills, right? It's a lack of the ability to cope with things that happen to you on a day-to-day basis when you are no longer drugging your emotions. Most of us who became addicts stopped developing. No, all of us stopped developing emotionally when we became addicted. So you might be frozen at 22 years old, or you might be frozen at 14 years old, or wherever you were. Once you get clean, we have to then start learning the skills. Uh, as I've said, people, the first interview I'm doing is with Grizzly Heat's daughter, right? The Grizzly Cub, and this is like right down her alley, because this is someone who is one of us in the boat, right? We're all in this boat together. She is one of us, and she works in recovery. Like I said, the best of the best are always people who can tell you, all of the different things in terms of textbook smarts, but can also say, boy, when I was there. And people, if there was not power in the phrase, "I've been there," and if there wasn't power in the phrase, "I know how you feel," then there wouldn't be a boat, and there wouldn't be people listening to me right now. The reason that this is the reason that we have such strong emotion for what we're doing here is because everybody understands everybody else. I've said this 100 times, and I'm going to say it 200 more. So just bear with me, because there's no. I can't describe to you what it's like when Mark Wages and I talk. Our drug of choice and our addiction and how everything went is identical. Now, he didn't do heroin, but opiates, whether you're taking a pill or whether you're taking heroin, it is the exact same thing. People don't like hearing that, especially the ones that take pills, but it is the exact same thing. Alan Ballantyne said, "I'm really looking forward to hearing her story." You know something? I've already heard it, and I can't wait to hear it again. She's just very, very relatable. Yeah, you're going to love it. And it's just the beginning, people. You're going to get a chance to hear the stories of the people that you're seeing in the comment section. And with the live feed, you're getting to know each other. And when you go over to the Facebook page, You get to know each other a little better. But when the story comes out and it's just the entire show is them just opening up and letting it flow, you really get an appreciation for who your crewmates are. And it does a couple of things. Number one, like I said, it brings us closer together and it makes the unit cohesive. It really brings people together. The second thing that it does, which may be the most important thing, is it gives you the real idea of who you might want to reach out to. You know, we all uh, we all realize that a time is going to come where someone is going to call on us for assistance. If that was not the case, you already got off the boat, right? We had that discussion a month ago where there was a camp that decided that isn't something you do, and then there was a camp that decided no, when you get sober, you absolutely try to help other people. The ones that said you definitely do that stuck around, right? So you people have all basically committed either verbally or just to yourself that this is something that we're here to support everyone else. That's why people are writing the you know the goodbye letters. That's why people are stepping out of their comfort zone, really stepping out of their comfort zone, or in the case of Deja, jumping out of her comfort zone to put something out there knowing it's going to affect other people. So as you hear these people's stories and you're actually seeing them, as even with the letters, they're powerful. But when you see somebody and they're that whole show is just them telling you what happened to them, you're going to have a better idea of which individuals are going to be literally in your toolbox, right? I'm going to reach out to so and so. I'm going to reach out to this person. I'm going to ask advice of this person because people, as much as I have been addicted to a lot of things on this planet, I've never been addicted to alcohol. Now, I realize, and you do too, from the letter that was read yesterday from Virginia, it doesn't matter what the addiction is, right? The processes are the same. However, like me and Mark, right? There is a certain bond between people who share a drug of choice. So if you're struggling with alcohol, it's going to be a real benefit and a real just tool to have in that in that toolkit. So and so, his story is so similar to mine, or her story is so similar to mine. I'm going to ask that person advice. I promise you, the advice that person gives you will be better than mine. Plain and simple. If alcohol is the drug of choice, their advice is going to be better. If the drug of choice is an opiate, right, or it's heroin, Saigon Cinnamon, right, is going to be a great person to ask advice from. Mark Wages is going to be a great person to ask advice from. If you stick around, people, and watch how this changes the face of what we do here, how this changes the relationships that we have. Uh, Everybody in here is caring and respectful and loving in abundance. There really is a lot of that going on. But when Alan Ballantyne said, I finished my letter today, that would be to Seth, I believe. I just read that letter. So all of these things bring us closer together. The closer we are together as a family on this boat, the more lives we're going to touch. When people show up here the first time, and I've said this before, it's not like other channels. People show up here and instantly, Fiona is, hey, how you doing? Welcome to the boat. And all of the other people chime in. Or the other day when someone said, hey, I'm 3 days off weed, there were 32, I think, comments in that thread. 32 people that wanted to say, hey, good for you, right? Congratulations. Where else are you going to get that? Where else are you going to get people that say, I know what you're going through and I'm here for you. If there's anything I can do, people, what we're doing here, what you are doing here is really, really unique. And it's going to get bigger. It's going to get bigger. It's going to get better. And it's going to change. The dynamic is going to get really, really personal and really, really different because of the technology that we've got now and having the ability to highlight these stories. And you want to talk about bringing everything back together. The product at Mark's channel, we know what it is. The product at almost any channel, you know what it is. People, the product on the boat, do you know what it is? It's you. You get this? You're the product on this boat. What's going to bring people coming back to this boat isn't me and my cool hat. It's going to be the fact that they're going to see somebody and say, "Oh man, that is exactly that is exactly what I'm talking about." Right? This is the person that this person has been exactly where I'm at. This is somebody that that you, your stories, your life experiences, you are the product. I hope this makes sense. It's what's going to get people to come here. It's what's going to make this grow, and uh, it's going to be an avenue for people to get sober that is going to be more powerful by 100 than it is right now. And right now, we're affecting lives. You can already start naming off the top of your head people who say they got sober because of you people on this boat. The number of people that are going to be getting sober because of this boat is it's going to get to a point where there's no keeping up in terms of remembering names. That's the dream. You understand? And there will be there will be segments on this show that we've never dreamed of, right? That are going to be so powerful that we just don't know yet. Because as this takes shape, people, I definitely see offshoots of people who really want a sort of a God element to what they do. I see groups that spin off from this for every religion out there. I think that that's probably something that will happen whether we design it or not, because it's just the nature of what happens. Do you understand? I think that there will be groups that spin off with particular drugs of choice. I think that there will be chat rooms type things set up for people who, they're struggling with opiates, that there's a place they can go. Now, granted, you can get help from anybody because addiction is addiction, but certainly if you're in a chat room with 11 people or 50 people or 200 people whose drug of choice was the same as yours, that's going to be powerful in a way that you can't even understand. And the uh, the technology that we have right now is really what is going to develop that. This is going to change the boat. It's going to change the dynamic of the boat. It's going to change everything. This is game changing stuff. And the very first, um, Uncle Johnny needs a bus driver hat. You know something? I may have to get him one. That's really not such a bad idea. Um, that's really not such a bad idea. Uh, but yeah, I'm excited, people. Like I said, the Grizz Cub is going to be the first one that you see. It's going to give you an idea of the direction when you see the power in this. And you got a dose of it with Mark. You really did. But when they're coming one and one right after the other, it's really going to be something that changes stuff. Now, knowing that, and knowing that that is the direction, and knowing that we are the product, you are the product. This needs to be said right now, and it needs to be understood right now. We're going to highlight people and their stories, and then those people are going to fail. You understand this? The nature of what we do here, people, we're going to hear stories of people who got sober and they're going to fall off the wagon. We're going to be loving people and we're going to be there to pick them back up. It's never going to be the situation where we go, oh man, we highlighted this guy's story and now he's back using dope. The default setting on this channel is going to be love, right? I don't even think I have to say it, but I'm going to. The default setting on this channel is going to be love at all times. There's never going to be any of the stuff that goes on outside, right? Really what makes this boat fantastic is the fact that we are, by choice, insulated from the hate, and I'm not, I'm not going to fall out of that. I'm not. I lose my way as much as anyone else loses their way. Ain't going to happen. I am rededicating myself, and for the rest of the time that I'm on this boat, I am going to be loving to a fault, even if there are times that it's going to hurt. I'm not gonna buy into anything. It's difficult from time to time, people. It really is. But the default setting on this boat is going to be love. It's just got to be the way it is. Hopefully, everybody gets that. But I think I've probably beat the subject matter to death. You're going to see that this week. You're definitely going to be seeing the love does conquer all, Fiona, and hate breeds hate. It really does. People, I got emails today from someone, a couple of different people that said, you really need to address, don't send me those emails anymore, people. I'm not addressing anything but addiction for the rest of the time that I'm on this boat. Just lovingly. I love you all. But that's what we're going to address. That's what this channel is about. I am going to address addiction. I'm going to address caring for one another. I'm going to address love. That's what we're going to do here. And if that doesn't sound great, I love you. I wish you the best of luck. Find something that's going to work for you. And I hope that it does. I hope it's exactly what you're looking for. But the default setting on this boat is going to be love. And if that gets to be too much, I can't even apologize. I was going to say, I'm sorry. I'm not. That's what this is going to be. And it's going to have to stay that way. Right? I know that is exactly what this world needs a whole lot more of. And we might not be able to affect it everywhere. We may not be able to dictate that at work your default setting will be love, because I'll tell you what, where I work, that's not the default setting. It just isn't. But here, where we can have some measure of control, it's love, people, from here on out. Now, work. Today, people, I think I've explained this to everybody, but I'm going to explain it again. If you pick up a newspaper and there's a circular in there for your local grocery store, that's what we print at the place I work at. And these things come off of an assembly line, a conveyor belt, at hundreds of thousands an hour. It can crank up to about 500,000 an hour if they're really trying to go after it. And there are 6 presses in there. The presses don't stop. Literally, they don't stop. They stop when we change out plates, or they stop when you have to put a new roll of paper on. And by the way, the new roll of paper will be 8 feet high, right? 8 feet high. These things are very, very large rolls. They need special forklifts that have these arms that grab it and pick it up. It's just absolutely amazing. But how to reach out to my neighbor, Tommy, email. Here's the thing, Dan. That's a great question, and it's such a difficult one to answer. And I'm not avoiding it. I'm going to try, but I'm going to have to take it in a couple of different ways, because it depends on the relationship you have with your neighbor. If you guys are really close, a lot of times, and this is going to sound cheesy, people, but this is the sales training. One of the easiest things that you can do whenever things are very, very difficult in terms of trying to get somebody to listen to anything. We're Americans, right? And there is something about Americans that I believe is a little bit unique to this country. I've been around the world. I've been to other countries. And in the US, I've never met a human being that doesn't want to give you their opinion, right? Especially if you ask for it. Because when you say to somebody, boy, I'd like your opinion, what you're saying is, I think you're intelligent. I value the fact that you're intelligent. And could you maybe look at this and tell me if it's something that you find enlightening? I would, if it's a situation where you can get the guy to sit down with you, I would say to him, hey, I think I might have a problem, for real. And I've been watching this show. Pick a video that you really think is going to resonate with the guy, and say to him, I would like to, can I get your opinion on this? It's going to take 10 minutes. And just hope that when the video is done, you can strike up a conversation, because it really is a situation where you have to understand that when you reach out to somebody who's in the life, they hate you as soon as you do. Honestly, the part of the brain that is protecting the addiction will do anything to protect the addiction. So, how many times I went to an intervention, my intervention, right? I was living in Texas, and at that point, it wasn't even heroin. The drug of choice I was doing was coke. And these guys said, "Yeah, we're going out, blah blah blah." Well, I'm 6'2" and like 225 pounds, and we were going to get in a car, and he's like, "Nah, get in the middle, back seat in the middle." I was like, "What? Why would I get in the back seat in the middle?" Right? Chris is 5'2". Why am I getting in the middle? And it just didn't seem right from the word go. And we started driving, and we weren't going near Westheimer and the places that we went to party. I said, "Hey, where are we going?" He said, "We're stopping by a hotel on the way to where we're going. We just got to stop there real quick." And they walked me to a hotel room for an intervention. And I had never been angrier in my life. Now, if you party with your neighbor, don't even bother. For real. If you ever partied with this man, it's going to be a very difficult thing, because you lose credibility. Now, if you've been sober for 6 or 8 months and he knows you're not using, it's different. But like, I got brought to this intervention and they sat me down and they were like, we think cocaine is an issue, this and that. And they had a professional in there, and I just sort of nodded. And I nodded, and I probably had that look on my face, you know what I mean? Because when he was done, he was like, "Is there something on your mind?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did blow with him yesterday, right? Last weekend, he and I did a quarter ounce. What the hell am I doing here with these people, right? You guys got big guts. If you think that this is something even, remotely legit, that you're going to try to talk to me about this." And I was viciously angry. So it's a challenge, brother. It really is. You can put stuff on in the background, like have the guy over and just run 4 or 5 vids in a row until he goes, "What are you watching?" This is just how I got sober. It's and it's odd because it's kind of a family. The people you see in the comment section, I know all of those people. It's just kind of crazy. Everybody there is recovering. Everybody there is fighting the good fight, and you know, see how it works. In sales, there are different methods, and believe me, the reason I keep saying sales is because you're trying to sell this guy on the concept that he needs help. Trust me, that's exactly what it is. And in sales, there's different methods, right? You've got the kick the front door down method, where you just get in a person's face and go, "Look, you need help." That's very difficult because of again, the fact that your brain is doing everything, that you're doing everything possible to make sure that you don't lose your drug of choice. Your brain doesn't want that to happen because it's going to mean discomfort, right? The brain doesn't, as human beings, we fight anything that makes us uncomfortable. We're from the time we're babies, right? What do you scream at? Well, I just went to the bathroom in my pants. I'm hungry, right? Any of the things that cause any discomfort, and we never really outgrow that. We scream either out loud or in our heads if anything causes discomfort. And quitting drugs is huge discomfort. Quitting alcohol is massive discomfort, and they're going to fight you on that. One of the other methods is the drip method. Yeah, where you just sort of, small amounts over and over and over again, dropping little hints, little hints, little hints, and hope that over the course of a period of time that one of those drips becomes the one thing that person needed to hear. And that day, that thing that you said is what caused a really massive change. I've told the story. I've told it 5 or 6 times on this channel about the guy that came up to me and said, "Hey, when we talked last year, my life has not been the same since this was in prison." It was a black guy, and we were having the Christian meal that you have once a year. And blacks and whites don't sit at the same table in prison. It's not allowed. But at the Christian feast, which is just Christians, you can sit wherever you want because there's none of that, racism stuff is allowed in there. So, but he sat down next to us and he said, "I just really want to thank you because, what you said really changed my life." And it was humbling. I said, "Thanks," And as he got up and walked away, my friend Turtle said, "Well, what was the conversation about?" I said, "I don't even know who that guy is. I have no idea who that dude is, but I was probably on one of my anti-drug or alcohol rants. And that day, whatever I happened to say was what he needed to hear. And I'm not being disrespectful because I wish I knew what I said. I really felt humbled, but could not have even sworn that I had ever spoken to the man. So with your neighbor, you can either sort of drip it on him, but have it in the background, put it on and get the guy over there and just have it in the background, because the first thing he's going to do when he looks up and sees this, I don't look like a TV show, man. I don't look like you're watching something super entertaining on on normal TV, right? I'm not a movie star, so chances are you're very easily going to get the "What are you watching?" And that's your icebreaker. That's the it gives you the opportunity. And don't push the first time. Just drip it. See what happens. See what he says. This is something that keeps me sober. And I was really tired of living a life addicted to substances. And I came across this. They call it the lifeboat because everybody here is in the same boat. And it's just a really odd thing. You've probably never seen anything like it. Give me your opinion, man. Watch it for 10 minutes. Tell me what you think. Right? Maybe it clicks. Or maybe he's like, says, "This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen." That's fine. It really is. Because the day may come where he realizes he has a problem. And if you've dripped 3 or 4 times on him, he might come over and go, "Hey, what's the ad to that? I mean, what's the address to that? I want to catch 1 or 2 of those videos," right? The other thing is If he's really just anti everything, show him the Systroming video. Nobody on the planet does not enjoy watching me throw up. I mean, I've never had anybody watch that video and tell me they didn't think it was funny. You know, the number of people on this boat who are here because they saw the Systroming video is scary. You know, when you can go into the back office and you look at the matrix, it tells you how many people watched that video and then hit the subscribe button. With all of the things that I say to try to help people, I got more subscribers off the Systroming video than any other. And I mean like 5-1, 6-1. It's astounding the number of people that watched that silly video and then decided to subscribe to this channel. But we got the foot in the door, you know, and if they can learn to watch me and think, you know, well, it's kind of self-deprecating, you know, he picked on himself and he was able to throw up. What does he keep talking about? What, you know, because I keep saying I'm willing to do this for the mission. I'm willing to do this for the mission, right? I'm not doing this because it's fun. I'm doing this because I'm trying to grow this. This is how much this means to me. I mean, eventually the guy's going to go, what the hell is he talking about? What's the mission? And, you know, anytime you can get anything and anything to get the door open, right? Get the door open, not much you get your foot in it. And then, you know, you go from there. So hopefully that answered it. It's such a tough question to answer. It really is. It's a great question, but you know, from the host standpoint, it is just difficult. You know, we're selling a product nobody wants. You understand that? We're selling a product. At least when the time comes that somebody is ready to get sober, right? Then it's a different scenario. But if we're forcing it on them, there's nobody in America that wants to hear me, right? They want to turn me off. The really last thing in the world they want to do is listen. It's just, yeah, and you can't even blame them. I know that sounds stupid, but when I was in the life, you're not going to get me to listen to anything about rehab. I would be viciously angry about it. You know, the jokes we used to say, like, you know, when I was mandated, I'd say, yeah, I got to go to a drug class at 3:00. That's not nearly as much fun as it sounds. You know, it's not a class about drugs. Like, you know, there was always some smart aleck remark because I didn't want to be there. I wanted to stay in the life. I wanted to stay in the life as long as I could, as sad as that is. That's the reality. Nobody wants to leave the life until they have to leave the life. And that's sort of the nature of the beast, you know? So I had to answer that question, but back to work. So I work on these lines and they don't stop for any reason. The machines profit between $8,000 and $10,000 an hour profit. So they're not letting this thing shut down for any reason. It just goes nonstop unless something goes wrong. The paper snaps, anything like that. So it requires an army of people to make this thing run smoothly. There are 6 chutes that take the paper and fold it so that it looks like the thing you open up when you get your newspaper. Well, these chutes, they come down stacked, right? Fast. They just come shooting out and sort of got to grab this thing and stack it. And there's a pattern that you have to stack it in. It's not because they have to go in different directions. So that it's just a pain in the keister. But when I got to work this morning, the 4-man team that does what I do was a 2-man team. One gentleman didn't show, and one gentleman was late. He came 2 hours late. The other gentleman did not show at all. And I have brought this guy up before. I said that, you know, the first day I walked in, there was a guy, and I went, oh, Lord. The first guy I saw, I said, meth. I mean, as soon as I walked in, he does this thing where his head sort of juts out. His neck is at an angle, and he's just, I mean, you can see that he's just, you know, the tendons in the neck are like this. He's just wired. And I feel for people who are that far along. I can't remember who was in the comment section who talked about this specifically, but they said, you know, when you're doing meth, might have been Jacob. I could be wrong, but he said when you're doing meth and you're so strung out on it that you're hating it, the next, you know, you do a shot and it's just this. He's like, and you got to do it anyway. That's kind of where this guy is, and he's got behind his back. People refer to him as the raccoon because there's 4 of us and we're all white, right? So when they divide it up, you know, they'll say YouTube because they all know that, you know, I got a YouTube channel. So there's YouTube, but the other guy they call the raccoon because he's just got these black, like, circles underneath his eyes. But today he didn't make it into work, and he ended up not calling in. He ended up calling one of the other employees for bail. And I'm not very close with this guy. We're not. I don't dislike him. He seems a nice enough guy, but we're not friends yet or anything like that. But I was greatly affected by the fact that this guy was calling for bail. Now, keep in mind, as I've said before, when you open the back door, the jail is 100 yards away, and I was erroneously under the assumption that that's where he was. As it turns out, he was in jail in Carson City, which is a drive. It's a long way away, but um, yeah, it messed with me all day. It was one of those things that you get something in your head, and even if you're not thinking about it, it's there. It was like that all day long. He was calling for bail to help him get out, and at any other time in my life, I would have tried to throw in on that cause, because leaving somebody in jail is just it's a very difficult thing to do. I'm doing a line too. Was that old saying? We did it. Pop a pop a bean, bite down, do a line was too. The old saying. Oh man, you know, fun while it lasted. I get that too. And something, people, that's an expression that somebody just said. You realize that anyone else in the world thinks he's an idiot for saying that, unless you're on the boat, right? For real. If you This is why this works, because if I talk about heroin and I go, yeah, well, it was fantastic while it lasted. Carson City Con Air style. What's really funny is there really is a Carson City stop off for Con Air. There really is. I've actually been there, but Con Air is a 727. You'd be really disappointed if you saw a Con Air. I'm sorry, a 737. It looks like every other plane you've ever been on in your life, except it's all white. If you ever see a plane and it's got no markings on it at all, it has a small American flag up by the nose and nothing else on there, that is usually either the deportation plane, right? The INS plane looks identical, or it's Con Air. And there is 2 INS planes and there are 3 Con Air planes. And they never stop either flying around the country, because there's 127 federal prisons. So they're always transporting people from one place to another. And what's bizarre is you land in Oklahoma City. That's like the equivalent of O'Hare Airport is in the U.S., where it doesn't really matter where you're going. You're going to go through Chicago, or you're going to go through Atlanta, right? Those are the 2 huge hubs in the U.S. Well, in Oklahoma City, when you land, the plane pulls up. You know the thing that comes out? Okay, so it comes out and it hits the side of the plane. And when you step off the plane into what would be the airport, you're in prison. It's crazy. You walk off, right? You're in shackles or whatever. But as soon as you get off the plane, there's a whole committee there to greet you. But they have a high-rise prison on the runway, and that's when you do fly Con Air, you go there and they keep you there for however long, until the next plane's going out to the destination you're going, and you can get stuck there anywhere from a couple of days to for a couple of hours to a couple of weeks. And it's the whole system with the federal government is just bizarre and awful. But yes, and I realize, for those of you who think that I'm oblivious, I do realize my daughter is in the comment section. I'm trying to. I get nervous when my child is in the comment section, because right now there's a great number of people who are not fond of me. So if I seem like I'm not being courteous to my children, it's just that me trying to protect them. Everybody who's in the live feed right now, you guys are the salt of the earth. You're great people, right? But there are other lurkers out there that aren't so kind, and I just want to insulate my kid. So if I seem like I love you, kid. I do, more than anything in the world, but she knows that. So work today was one of those sort of mental gymnastic things, because the fact that I had no desire whatsoever to help this guy, to throw in, that is an evolution for me, right? My entire life, I would be the guy that would have helped round up bail. I can't stand the thought, no, you don't have to dip, kid. Just be on your guard. I love you, and I like having you here. Just be on your guard. If someone says something stupid or anything else, then you may want to dip at that point. And don't stay up too late. Oh wait, no, it's not a school night. I don't care how late you're up. I'm sorry. So I've always been one of the guys to to make sure that I could get somebody out. It's such a disturbing thing for me to think about somebody who's in that can get out, if that makes sense. It's one thing once, like with the federal government, you don't get bail unless you're, somebody you see on the news because you're a white collar guy. The feds don't really let people bail out. It's especially in Nevada. The court system and the feds will just not let you. I don't care how much money you got, you're not bailing out. They just keep you in. But and once that reality sinks in and you get arrested, you're just like, all right, I'm here. What are we gonna do? Uh, Peace and power out Chicago. All right, out of Chicago. Oh, okay. Welcome, Chicago. Good to have you. But it's different when there's somebody in there and all it takes is a couple of $100 and they can be on the street. That has always been in my entire life like a worm that burrows into the brain. It's so frustrating to me, and I always really wanted to get him out. And so did somebody already take a shot at my kid? Is that what I'm hearing? Good stuff. Yeah, good stuff. Why does that not surprise me? Anyway, so today I was wrestling with that, and this is the first time in my life where I didn't have a desire of any kind to to bail the person out, and that made me I sort of struggled with guilt. Um, yeah, that was my guilt for the day. I felt like I should feel more guilty for just wanting to leave that person in, but watching him for the last couple of months, I think he's a person that he's not going to take that step. And there are times in the life of somebody who's really addicted where the only thing that's going to get that to happen is handcuffs. I mean, as awful as that is, I mean, I was that guy. I really was. And last night when I was asked the question, the best things that ever happened to you, obviously I talked about the birth of my son and my daughter, the best thing that ever happened to me. Other than that, the best thing that ever happened to me was prison. as screwed up as that is, it was I had to be put in timeout so that I had time to get the stuff out of my system. I needed the guilt that I had been putting away for all of those years. I needed it all to come, and I needed it to come while I was in a situation that was very much under control. It's yeah. So that was a struggle today, people, and I have vowed. Uh, I have vowed that if I struggle or if there is something that is an issue in my life, you're going to hear about it, right? That's part of me doing this, right? I'm the guy in front of the camera, and until that changes, I'm the guy in front of the camera, and I think that it becomes a situation where you can look at the host and think that everybody's got problems and the host has got it all figured out. Saigon Cinnamon says handcuffs got me sober for a year, but I came right back out and did the same thing. I did too, Saigon. I went to, I talk about the fact that I'm a convicted bank robber. That was the first federal sentence, right? So if everyone has not understood that, let me elucidate. Charlie Mullins, good to see you, my brother. Charlie's one of my favorite people. Love Charlie Mullins. Charlie, I love you, man. So the second time, I went to prison for bank robbery and I got out and screwed up and went back. Yeah, and sometimes it takes more than one time. It's how long did you do in the feds, Mike? The first time I went to the feds, I did. The feds have an unusual way of sentencing, right? There's a federal sentencing guideline sheet, and then you get sentenced to X number of months. I was sentenced to 56 months the first time I went to federal prison, which is about standard for a bank robbery if you don't have a gun. If you have a gun, you're going to get 25 years. you're going to get about 5 if you don't have a gun. And I did it without a gun. So I had actually, it was conspiracy to commit is what I pled to. Conspiracy to commit bank robbery, which is 2113A, I believe. No, 2113C is the crime I pled guilty to, and I got 53 or 56 months, one or the other. But you're going to get 6 months of halfway house, and then you get time off for good behavior, although very little time off for good behavior. You don't. Uh, I almost always miss the best parts of your post. I can't read, Saigon. I'm so bad at this, brother. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can get back and try to. Oh yeah, there you go. I did miss the best part of your post, but I came right back to the same place, same people. It wasn't until I had my son and got custody. Yeah, hands down, Saigon. I absolutely missed the best part of that post. It gets back to your why, you know, and we talked about that yesterday. It definitely gets back to the why. Um, oh, you know what, Mitchell, that's really, really kind. Believe it or not, I get a lot of emails, and there are certain people that really sort of keep a lookout for me. Um, no worries. I do need the bifocals, and they're not on the desk right now, which is awful. You see me squinting, don't you? I'm sorry. Uh, Oh, back so it's a weird thing. You get 53 months. You're going to get 15% off for good behavior, which is hard to do because they write you up for almost everything. So I did 48 months on the bank robbery sentence, and I was on the street. The second time I did 78 months was the second sentence, and there was also one prison sentence in the state. Nevada prison sentence, which was super, super short. It was, I was arrested and went to prison for just like, oh, you can't call it shoplifting because it was organized as hell and we were stealing a lot of stuff, but it was that kind of thing. I was stealing from stores. And that one, my sentence, I was given 3 years. But in the state, like I walked in and the woman said to me as I was doing my intake, she said, you know, well, if you program, they take time off for programming. And I said to her, what do you mean? And she said, well, they'll knock time off of your sentence. If you do this program, you get 30 days off of your sentence. And if you do this program, you can get 30 days off of your sentence. And I said, what's the shortest anyone's ever done on 3 years? And she said, 14 months. I said, I'm going to beat it because I just did not want to be in prison. So I literally took every single thing you could take. And then on top of that, I signed up to be a mentor to people who were learning how to read. I signed up to be a mentor for people that were learning anything. I was working harder than I'd ever worked in my life, but I was able to get in there and get out in about 13 months, which was so in my entire life, I have spent, 12 years somewhere in there incarcerated. And much like Saigon Cinnamon, not to bum out Cedar or put my daughter on the spot, but my daughter was not in my life for a long time, and it's a story that I don't really want to get all of the details to because I don't want to dump on the people. The bottom line was that her mother, for a long period of time, did not allow me to have contact. And you know what? I wasn't a particularly good guy, so maybe she, thought she was doing the right thing, and I get that. But that changed while I was in prison. Um, I was able to get a relationship with my daughter, and life changed dramatically for me because now, my biggest excuse was gone. For the longest time, my favorite excuse was that she was not in my life. Whenever somebody wanted to dump on me or suggest that I needed to stop using, my response was always that they stole my baby. That was my go-to excuse for why I was going to use. And when that excuse was gone, I was all of a sudden, really able to sort of focus on my why, and that went really a long way. Um, T. Raymond Esquire. So you wasn't vaping, you claim snorting meds. I'm not sure. Oh, are you talking about at the beginning of the video? You know something? Let me show you the desk that I would have been snorting off of. Here you go. Can you see this? That's what's here. I bent down to the ground to grab a wire. I had C17 plus 2. I am less than 20 some odd, no, I'm less than 17 days out. I was at about 14 days out when at the start of that video, I bent down. I went, not doing lines, bro, 20 times a month. I am on federal probation. If you had heard the live feed I did after that, I dial into an 800 number every single day. I enter a code, and they tell me if I have to come in the next day and take a drug screen. A drug screen where I drop my pants to my ankles and stand there with my unit hanging out while a guy watches me urinate in a cup. The urine is then tested for specific gravity and every other thing that you can possibly test on a 32 panel test, which is then sent off for gas chromatograph. I'm not on anything. I appreciate your question. It has been answered in the last feed. Hopefully that answered it for you. So, I don't remember where I was when Raymond Esquire. No, he can ask the question. If that was a genuine question, then great. What was I talking about before I was sidetracked? Oh, I was talking about my why. My go-to excuse, my pet excuse, and we've talked about this in the past. Excuses really are something that we sort of grab onto with both hands. You know what I mean? If you have one that's awesome, and I'm not belittling anything that happens in people's lives, but there are people for whom they had really tough childhoods. You know, Oprah Winfrey had a really tough childhood. There are people who get over them, and there are people who really sort of latch on to these things as a go-to excuse for being able to continue to do whatever it is they're doing, drugs, alcohol, bad habits, whatever. And I did that. I did that for better than a decade. My go-to was my child, you know, that my baby was gone. And once I had a relationship with her again, well, I shouldn't say again, once I had a relationship with her, period. The last time I had seen her, she was 2 years old, right in there, and there wasn't a whole lot of conversing, you know, with her at that point. But it was an awesome experience. You know, I met my child at she was at 12 years old, and you know, we got on the phone and just had some gut wrenching stuff. She had been told that I just didn't want to be a part of her life, which was painful. I suppose I should have assumed that they weren't going to. I had to assume that they weren't going to be honest and say that they just told me that I didn't have an opportunity. But there were so many heart-wrenching moments. I said to her at one point, you know, I said, I wanted to be in your life. I said, I can show you an entire box full of every Christmas card, every birthday card, you know, every holiday that I had mailed you something and it would just get sent back. I said, but I saved all of them. I have a whole box full of them. And she said, yeah, I have a box for you like that. You know, which was like, we were two people that had been denied. You know, she had been denied a dad, and I had been denied a daughter. And you know, at that point, there was a what had been my favorite excuse to use had become my favorite excuse to never use again, and it's been a pretty good thing since. You know, we talk for the most part daily, and he says, Tommy, I got sober before my son went to kindergarten, and taking him to school every morning and going to every school function made me stay clean. You know what? I love that, Saigon. I really do. You're just a good dude. I'm sorry, you really are. Every time you bring up your why, I don't know. I tingle. I'm not even kidding you. This is just, again, people, you know, we're not talking even about drugs per se, right? But I understand what he's saying. I completely 100% understand what he's saying. and it's a he has been the principal's first, and I was on the PTO. Nice. um, yeah, it's a life changing thing, and not to sound, to do the sexist card or anything else, but it's something that I think gets uh, people assume that, with the mother child thing, it's just as strong with guys. It really is. I mean, the dad son, the dad daughter thing. We really do feel it the same way. We might not have given birth to the child, but boy, we feel it, and it's this is why I have no problem whatsoever saying that, yeah, you need to get sober for yourself, but if I wanted to make a mistake, if I wanted to think about making a mistake, the my daughter is a why that will keep me from making that mistake. I'm not. I tried that for decades, and I never had the wherewithal to be able to pump the brakes. Um, I'm the parent that they called to do field trips. Yeah, Saigon, I'll tell you what, man. This is yeah, I love it. I absolutely love it. I really do. I understand, mate. Just been catching up. I thought your name was Tommy, so I never knew what to believe. And here since finding out my name was different. Oh, you thought I was born Tommy Scoville. Well, no, I was not born Tommy Scoville. You thought that my brother and I, with the capability of eating hot things like no one else on the planet, just happened to have the last name Scoville? I'm I'm astounded sometimes at the things that people say. You think we were trying to hide the fact that that was our last name? It never occurred to you that on my brother's site, his donate button has his name on it? On my site, the donate button has my name on it? You know what? You're not here to catch up on anything, bro. You're here to stir stuff up, and that's okay. You can do that because the default setting is love, bro. You want to be that guy? Enjoy. Seriously, you're not going to get the response you want. People, if you would like to not speak to me ever again because I was not born Tommy Scoville, you absolutely have the right to do that. Allow me to tell you why we did not go with our original names. Because of people like the trolls who are currently taking shots at people like Saigon Cinnamon and accusing him of being a con man, or taking shots at the people that I care about as a way to try to get at me. When my brother was just starting to enter chili contests and eat things hotter than anything on the planet, um, he was going to take a name so that his daughter, who was an Olympic hopeful in diving, which means every picture of her anywhere on the planet was in a bathing suit. My brother did not want trolls going after his daughter, who was 15, 16, 17 at that time. So he came up with a name. While this happened, I was incarcerated. So by the time I got out of prison, he had told 500 stories about me. And I wasn't going to go with a name that could have people drag my children into it. I'm going to tell you a little secret. My daughter's name isn't Cedar. If you people are offended, that I've tried to insulate my family, then you can do that. So when I got out, I went with Tommy Scoville. And the cool thing was my previous life was reprehensible. So here was a new name that had never lied to anybody. Here was a new name that had never done anything like the old name. So yeah, I decided to go the legal route and change it. So I'm Tommy. If you don't like that, you can hate me for it. I don't know. And if the rest of you are unhappy with that, I apologize. But I mean, you really thought our last name was Scoville? What are the odds that the guy that came up with the scale for rating how hot a pepper is happened to have the same last name as my brother? I'm astounded by some of the things that people say. I really am. We're not here about names. We want the truth of the hypocrisy and threats. Dan Garrett, good to see you. The truth of the hypocrisy and threats. Dan, I'll miss you. the default setting, people, will be love. What we're trying to do here is going to get attacked. It's going to get attacked by people. You know it's going to happen. It is what it is. I'll tell you what we're doing here, Dan Garrett. We're trying to help people get off drugs. That's what, you know, that's what we're here for. Raymond T. Esquire. Oh, would you do me a favor? But not on the Facebook link to your channel. And not on my the button for contribution either. No, I have been out of prison, decided to legally change my name. I'm on federal paper. The paperwork has been filed. My name will not legally be changed until I am off federal probation. You can call me whatever you want, bro. Whatever name makes you happy. I'm Tommy Scoville. That's the name I'm going with for the rest of my life. This is with the goal of what we're trying to do here. These are the people that really want to help further the cause. Thank you, my friend. You're helping people. That's what you're doing. You're definitely helping people. Where were we? I've never been here before. Here because of wages. You mean like a nice man, glad to be here. Yeah. Well, yeah, we're glad to have you here. Appreciate you stopping by. Alan Valentine at the Swiss Vapor, home of my favorite RTA. Not sure what RTA is. Can you type up what RTA is? Anyone? RTA? No. Okay. So back to the why, the children angle. Apparently, Mark Wages says that he is also the go-to for field trips and PTA things as the go-to dad. It's astounding the number of people, once they decide to get sober, who move into roles of, I don't know if the term responsibility covers it enough, but it's amazing how many people step up to the plate and really start being super dad. I believe wholeheartedly, you can't make me believe otherwise, that if your why is a child, if your why is your offspring, that you have a much safer chance in terms of remaining sober. I really believe that. I've said it before, and I'll beat it to death. If you're getting ready to go to the liquor store and your why is your son or your daughter, that's the kind of thing that keeps you from putting the key in the ignition and driving down to buy a bottle of bourbon. It's the kind of thing that keeps you from buying a bag of dope. It really is. I love you all. 2% on the phone, fam. I love you, haters. Suck a bag. Oh, come on, Mitchell. That's all right. We still love them. We really do. It is what it is. You know, the sad thing, people, and you know, Mark hammered it. You know, hate begets hate. It really does. It just creates more of it. Saigon Cinnamon, you know, it's not worth anyone's time. No, it really isn't. And here's the thing, people. If this is gonna, if we're gonna slide into that, and it's gonna become the subject matter, even if it's among the people that I love, guys, if we can't ignore them and talk about what we're here to talk about, then we'll wrap it up for the night and we'll come back and do it, you know, the next time. But if you feed into these people, it's like putting milk out for a cat. You know, it's yeah, being an atheist on the streets with no kids, it was tough to find mental strength to quit for myself. You know what, Jesse? There are a ton of places for atheists who are trying to get sober. There really are. And there's a lot of them that are free outlets. You know what Patreon is? There's a group over on Patreon that you know, it's not the road I took, but because there are a ton of atheists who are trying to get sober, I actually did some research on this. And there was a group over on Patreon that's not going to cost you anything. You just download the app. But they have set up an entire support group for people trying to go that route without a belief in God. And they've got, they do meetings. They've got a whole different setup. And it really speaks to individuals who who don't have a belief in a higher power. And I absolutely I get that, but at times I understand, Mitchell. I really do. I understand. I didn't. I'm just saying it was tough. You've been off of the streets for about 4 years now. You know what? That's a it's a very interesting term. Um, Really, that's an interesting term. To be off of the streets is something that it's a great way to put it. When you're out there, some people say in the life, some people say using, some people say in the street. But 4 years is a victory, my friend. If you're out 4 years, God bless you. That's fantastic. What was your drug of choice? Yeah, I haven't seen what the drug of choice is yet. But hey, 4 years, any way you shake it. Oh, booze. Yeah, and in the streets. So you were full fledged, deep in the life. Hey, 4 years is a tremendous amount of time off booze. I assume life has gotten considerably better, right? Were you literally living on the streets? Was it one of those situations where um, were you that far gone? It's a tough existence. It really is. Charlie Mullins. Good night, Charlie. Love you, brother. Really appreciate you stopping by, Charlie. You're the cream of the crop. You are the absolute cream of the crop. Um, Jesse, most people I know couldn't survive a week homeless. You know what? There's a lot of truth to that. 4 years on the street is, living on the street, but to be clean 4 years, you're deep into the success part of, you were homeless for the better part of 4 years. Good Lord, Jesse. Hey, God bless you, man. No disrespect. Bless you. Congratulations, however you want me to say it. I'm not trying to shove religion on you, but that is an impressive thing. It really is. And again, on another forum, people might not get this either, but it's really, really an impressive thing that somebody can stay alive that long out on the streets. Um, Chris King says, I just realized it's been about 4 years for me, and your drug of choice was ecstasy, Molly, MDMA. Wow, that is for those people who haven't done it, it's got a very heavy, it's a methyl based drug, so it's got a very speedy kind of a quality to it, but it's also got a lot of other things in there, and it's in the trip family of drugs. A lot of people will refer to it as one of the trip drugs because it literally will shake you away from reality, right? For a long period of time, uh, you're you're dancing in and out of what's real and what's not. That is a tough drug to come off of. The feel good aspects of MDMA, it tends to make you, and they play this up. It's not the love drug as much as people, in movies, the person takes it and instantly wants to, sleep with the dog or whoever else is around. It's always a comedy thing. But there is a love quality to it where people tend to really become very affectionate, whether it's, sexual or otherwise. Everybody seems to be much nicer to one another. In fact, I was in Texas at a time where you could still get it legally, and they used to, the pitch for how to get people to take this was they would say, for married couples, you want to work on your marriage, this is the best way to do it. Take this and sit down. And they talked about how it would repair marriages and this and that. But to be able to leave that behind, I mean, that feel good aspect of it, it's got to be a very, very difficult drug to kick. For real. Congratulations. That's fantastic. Yeah, it's the Swiss vapor. Everything is so soft. Yeah, here's the thing. Like I said, I was in Texas for a period of time where this was legal, and you could buy it across the counter at a bar. You could go in and say, I want a Long Island iced tea and a hit of ecstasy, and they would sell it to you that way. And every night they would have to take people out who were, I'm going to use the word overdose. It's not that you don't overdose, but they were so deep into taking it that they were going through, whatever. And they found honestly that handing them an ice cube, that used to be like the first line of treatment, was to just give them an ice cube and see if that would be enough to calm them down. And very often it was. The stimulation of feeling the ice, the cold on their hands, was often enough just to get start the process, so to speak, of getting them to calm down. uh, it definitely heightens sense of feeling, sense of touch, all of those things. So again, they play it up in movies, but they do that with all drugs in movies, you know. But it gets a lot of almost I guess comedy, you know, the comedic element to it. It's less that than what people make it out to be, but um, it raises your temperature. It absolutely raises your temperature. There's no two ways about it. You definitely feel as if, you know, you're flushed, I guess is the term. See, now my small screen is out where I read the comments, and now I'm having to do it off of the camera, which is almost impossible. Chris King, I used selenium. Yeah, I can't. There's no way I'm going to be able to catch any of the comments, people. That's bad. Um, so I'll tell you what, we've been on closing in on 2 hours. What I'm probably going to do is wrap it up, because without, I've got a black screen over here. So without the ability to see what you guys are doing, um, the Flocka. Yeah, I've touched on Flocka. Grizz Cub could probably talk about that with considerably more knowledge. Uh, right before I went to prison the second time, the second Fed prison sentence. Right before I went to prison on that, um, I had the opportunity to do Flocka, and I didn't do a lot of it. I didn't get super into it, but um, boy, there are some videos out there that are just frightening. I think it's another one of those drugs that there are so many different things that people are calling um, Flocka. You know what I mean? Like different labs making the same thing. For a while, they were calling it Alpha PVP. One manufacturer that was selling it, that was the name brand that I bought it from. I bought it online from China, and they mailed the stuff in. Yeah, boy, I just cannot read this stuff. And doing it on my phone is an impossibility. But Flocka in a lot of cities has become an epidemic, and you see, I know you all have seen the clips of film of somebody that bit somebody on the face, and it really looks like something out of a zombie film. Uh, the flock is frightening. A lot of these, and again, the Grizz Cub is someone that really could hammer this home. But there is an awful lot of there's an awful lot of really frightening stuff that is happening with these drugs that are coming in um, from China. There's, you know, people. There's no quality control. Can you imagine? You know, they're cranking out whatever they can and just sending it over, and that's, you know, pretty frightening stuff. It really is, and it's, you know, the nature of what's going on right now is that, you know, anything and everything that they're manufacturing is getting sent over here. It's you know, the ability for people to order this through the internet and get it FedEx to the house. They're not catching it. It's coming in unbelievable quantities. And what you buy from a site that says Flocka and what I buy from a different site that says Flocka could be as far away as east from west in terms of being the same substance. That happened quite a bit with. You remember when the synthetic marijuana stuff was really becoming popular and it was being sold under the name Spice? Uh, well, one of the name brands for Spice was K2, right? It just had a K and the number two on it. And that has become sort of ubiquitous for all of those products are now referred to as K2. And I watched that stuff in the prison system because you mix it up with denatured alcohol. You could spray it on a letter. You could spray it on an envelope or whatever, and it became very, very easy for people to. Oh, it is Fee's birthday. Well, you know, technically, that's just because she's on the other side of the international date line. Don't let her get off of this too easily, because we're going to embarrass her viciously tomorrow on the third on America time. So don't think she's dodging that bullet. Fee will have to endure the slings and arrows and of love here on the channel. That I can promise you. That will be a tomorrow thing, to be sure. So. But I'll give you a happy birthday for the Australia happy birthday. Tomorrow you will have to deal with the happy birthday here in the U.S. And Don't give me that no, it's definitely happening. That's just the way it is. Um, all right, people. Because of my inability to read what people are putting up on the screen and talk at the same time, uh, I just want to do a couple of things before we leave because these are important. Okay, um, we're going to need some prayers. Okay, uh, positive energy. If you're not someone that prays, send out positive energy, positive thoughts, whatever the case may be, and prayers. We have a girl on the boat, a lady on the boat. Brittany has eyes. You'll see her in the comment section. Brittany needs prayers for her mom. She's not getting into too many details more than that, and we don't need it. We just need to know that she needs prayers for her mom, and would make me really happy if everybody could do that for her. That's a cause that needs to be brought up to be sure. Also, Jerry, you remember Jerry? Jerry was the gentleman who was in the live feed. He's from New Jersey. He just had surgery. We knew it was coming. Jerry had some work done on a foot. They removed at least one toe. I think they may have removed more than one. But if we could get some positive vibes and energy or prayers for Jerry so that he heals quickly and can get on with life. He was really, as far as his head goes, he's in a great place. He is ready right now to move forward, and our thoughts and prayers need to be with him. That's a big deal at this point. So Brittany has eyes, and Jerry as well, and let's keep him in our thoughts and prayers, people. That's great indicator. It's indicative of who we are and what we do here. So let's get that taken care of. And I really appreciate everybody getting on tonight and sticking around. People, we're going to endure the slings and arrows of people who just are not as kind. And they're going to come and they're going to say things, and there's going to be cruelty. It is what it is. We're better than that, right? We're better than that. So let's not let them get to us. We're just going to keep doing what we do, and we're going to help some people. We're going to leave the earth a better place than we found it. And hopefully they got some kind of satisfaction out of that, But I'm proud of you people. The comment section made me proud. That's who we are. And it was a pretty impressive thing to watch you guys. Honestly, puts a lump in my throat. So, people, I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and we'll be legally in shortly. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville. This is the lifeboat, people. So between now and the next time we do this, do me a favor. Go out there and save somebody. All right? Good night, people. Maybe not. Oh, wrong platform.